And we're live with another episode of Total Justice Gaming. I am, of course, your host, Joe, Ryder Kick to Know, the monkiest of all monk takes that ever monked. We got with us, of course, Matt Hughes, my co-host, and
Evening, folks.
self-proclaimed future winner of Michigan, and some guy from Jazzco Games. We don't know him. No, seriously, it's Nathan Pruitt, one of the nicest brand managers, and I think first brand manager of UFS. So we thank Nathan for joining us today on UFS as we have pulled him away from the office. We have
Thanks
a
for having
plethora
me.
of questions to ask Nathan tonight, to and not including licenses, which he cannot talk about. We also have, we're going to be talking about the new floor rules for tournaments because we really wanted those. We finally got them. We're going to tell you our thoughts.
They're awesome.
And we're going to end up with the end of the night with our thoughts and predictions for Michigan PTC and just who will win Whirly Ball. So, first off, we will get to the interview segment. Mr. Nathan, who are you?
Well, my name is Nathan Pruitt, and I am the first brand manager that I'm aware of for Jasco Games. uh, I wear a lot of hats around here. I have many roles. Until we start making a little bit more money and we can start hiring more people, I can start delegating some of these hats to other people. But right now, I do brand management as a primary job, but it's kind of evolving. I do a lot of HR work. I do benefits, employee benefit works. I deal with taxes, especially Nevada taxes, since we're now in Nevada. Oh gosh, I help Jason with production numbers in terms of how much we should print typically. I do help occasionally with the licenses, depending on Jason's work schedule. If he gets overwhelmed, I will help out with some license issues. I help Lily with some of her sales management, and I contact big retail stores, your specialty stores, and distributors almost on a daily basis. Something I've been more recently working on is international shipping. So I pretty much have a hand in all of the business side of Jasco.
Okay, now, we are not going to talk about what we can and can't license. I'm only going to bring up something that we talked about previously in a series earlier with Jason himself. And I've been noticing as I've been watching the office, you guys keep getting license questions over and over and over again.
Yes.
As Jason iterated, they cannot tell you the license. They are under what is known as an NDA. If they break NDA, they cannot get said license. So, guys, quit asking what license we're going to get. We'll get it when we get it.
I'm
Moving
sorry.
along. No, no. You asked a better question. You asked what licenses they would like to get, which means at some point we will get frozen the UFS. I will throw down with Elsa. You
Dude,
will
Elsa
let
would
it
be a
go,
beast.
and it will be of your hand. All right. Moving along. How long have you actually been with UFS, Nathan?
Oh, well, Jason gave me my first deck. It was a Zigrig deck. I want to say 2 years ago as a starter pack. I was playing WoW TCG competitively at that time, and that was actually the first time I actually met Jason. I was new to a retail shop here. It's called Stormcrow Games, and I was recently coming in. We were moving from one store to Stormcrow to start up more like your battlegrounds for WoW TCG. And Jason walked out of his office one day, and uh, he was just kind of checking up on what we were playing and whatnot because we had a pretty sizable group playing TCG that night. And he kind of introduced himself, and we just kind of got to talking. And he's like, "Wow!" And so he just came over, and I met Sean Kennedy at the time, who was the sales manager on a kind of a volunteer basis, and he gave me a Zigbee deck, tried to explain it, and offhand, my focus was mainly on the WoW TCG. I was playing a game when he was talking to me, and I was like, "Holy cow, that game sounds complicated." And so it really didn't catch my interest, but it was cool that I got a pack or a starter deck, and not too long after that, I don't know. I really don't remember how it came about, but we started talking about me working kind of as a volunteer sales manager for him, and he had this idea of hiring sales reps on a commission base, just kind of amongst the UFS community to try to help get up in certain local areas, and I kind of spearheaded that and tried to conduct interviews and hire some sales rep about 2 years ago, and it didn't work out very well, and I didn't stick with it for very long. I want to say I did it for about 3 or 4 months, and nothing really came of it. Some of the UFS guys that are watching the show maybe even applied for it, because I think the majority of the applicants were UFS players. Uh, that was kind of my first introduction to it in a company. After that, I really got heavy into the WoW TCG, and at one time was world ranked. Beat some pretty predominant champions at some Dark Moon Fair events, and kind of made a name for myself around the store. And there was a situation that came up to where I was looking at getting out of my current position. I was an independent insurance agent for several different companies, and I was pretty successful at it, and been doing it for the last 8 years. And I was just looking to get out, and I told Jason that I was on the market. And luckily, at that time, I had no idea about the Mega Man Kickstarter or anything like that, and he kind of just told me okay. And then about a week later, he got back in touch with me and told me what he was planning to do, because the Kickstarter was opening up a lot of options for his business and his future games and so forth, and he needed someone to manage his brand because it was about to explode. And so we just looked at it, but he had a lot of other good applicants. So I had a lot of competition for this position, and I basically figured I wasn't going to get it. And so I figured I had to do something to show Jason that I was more valuable than the other people that were applying. And what I did is I told him I'd work for free. I said, I'll work for free, and I'll show you what I can do. And I was lucky enough that he was still in Lubbock and not in Las Vegas, because one of the contingencies was that this position would have to go to Vegas, and I didn't want to go to Vegas. I have a family. I got 2 little girls, and I just didn't want to raise them in that kind of city. So I had to prove to him that I could make him money. And within the first month, I had him into Hastings. And UFS had never been into a retail chain store before, and I got him in 130 stores in a month, just with one sale. Pretty much, from that point on, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. And at that point, I really started to try to learn the game as best I can on a competitive level. I wanted to be. I can't get into a game without being competitive. I have to be one of the best. That's just how I am with any game, and UFS has been proving difficult to be good at. It's not as hard to pick up once you're influenced by it, especially with the new Mega Man 10s, where there's a lot less text on it. So it was really easy to pick it up. Compared to Siegfried versus Mega Man was a whole lot easier to pick up and learn on the go. And I played in a few tournaments. The first few local tournaments, I kept going like 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and Jason would teach me a few tricks, and then I would improve a little bit. I've been improving a little bit as we go, and AJ Murray has helped me tremendously. And then all of a sudden, when I met you guys at Gen Con, I was like, holy cow, this game is amazing. I'd never seen, because like on the local level, it's different. I mean, you play the local guys who don't really travel, and so they typically will net deck from tournament winners from Worlds or Nationals, and like you see a lot of Yoris and stuff like that, and they just wipe the floor with you. But then when you get to Worlds and they're having to play your staff card deck, they have to start getting nifty with their cards and how they play, and all of a sudden you see a whole different kind of card game, because people are actually having to play at a different level that I've never seen before. And when I saw the Gen Con Worlds, my interest has really perked, and whenever I have spare time, which is not often, I do try to learn as much as I can. I think what's one of my biggest problems is I'm so busy, I don't have the time to actually learn the game well enough to be competitive enough where I want to be. Does that answer your question? It's probably a little long.
No, it's perfectly all right. No, I
Perfectly.
do believe Matt had the distinct pleasure of being one of the very few people to actually take a staff card off of you. Isn't that correct, Matt?
Yeah.
Only took the band card. The only one I could live.
Yeah, I would say, and Matt, I'm just going to be honest here. Sean is probably the only one that straight up just whipped me pretty bad. His Vespera deck just whipped me. You had one card that was just completely broken against me, and I don't consider that a win. I'm sorry, buddy.
It got to the point where I was gaining life every turn. I'm sorry that I had to go win team. Well, almost try to win teams.
Well, I mean, I conceded to Matt because it was the way he was playing against me, he was gonna win, but it was gonna take 30 minutes to 45 more minutes that we didn't have, and I saw that the loss was coming. It was just gonna take forever because you were doing like 1 damage a turn or something like that.
That match did prove to me though that Page Protect was definitely leaving after that weekend.
Yes.
When 15 damaged moves are doing 1.
Yes, that was very frustrating. And I think someone else did beat me, but they used AJ's staff card against me.
Was this before or after I gave you the Ultra Clark Buster at Worlds?
This is after. You played one against me.
Yeah, I only had one against Matt. But that was I wish I could have some more Clockbusters. I'm still Ultra Clockbuster, excuse me. I love that card, and I seem to always check it instead of getting it in my hand. I'm like, crap.
Welcome to UFS. All right. Speaking of this, what do you think of the UFS community? And remember, we are a fragile bunch.
So fragile.
I think very good of the community. Like when I compare you guys to other card game communities, I think you're a lot more solid than others. You do have your trolls that I have to deal with every now and then. They don't actually hear response from me, but it does. I don't know.
Register.
It does register, and you're just like, I wish they would know how hard we're working for you guys, because I think a lot of them don't realize that everything we do is because of you.
And I can still only apologize for one, and I do still apologize.
Oh, that's okay. We won't bring up names. But for the most part, aside from those few people, it is a few people, I'm completely amazed at how well y'all travel. Y'all travel very well, and it's like y'all are a guild that travels together, and that's how you socialize. Y'all meet up at big events. Y'all play Octagon together. You have close Facebook groups that you really bond well together. And I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean, on the WoW TCG level, you had that a little bit, but you would have clusters of teams that you would see everywhere. And one of the ways to be competitive is you had to go see what they were playing, so you knew how to prepare for them at the world and national events. And so you had those clusters of teams, and if you weren't a part of that team, you weren't really in the bubble. The UFS community seems to be one big bubble where they all communicate and they bounce ideas off each other, and I think it's really cool.
All right. What has been your favorite deck thus far? And you can't say your own, for God in heaven. A 641 cannot be your favorite deck.
No, I do like my staff deck. I really do. Especially since the UFS guys helped me even make it more broken. Bo Tucker and some other guys, I can't remember their names right now. Matt maybe even be one of them. They gave me some cards to make my staff deck just completely stupid.
Matt, what did you give him?
I didn't give him anything. I wanted to give him some more tips. Number one would have been more
whatever you gave him back.
I didn't give him anything. I didn't have the time. The tournament was starting. I wanted to talk to him about it.
I'll go pull the cards, because I know Bo Tucker gave me 2 of them that were just amazing. It's just in the other room. Hang on, let me go get it.
More Clockbusters.
Oh, the Clark Busters. What have we done?
We will just slowly bring all the staff members onto the show and make all of their decks better.
It all started with Gateway. If we're bringing them on here, how are they going to get their decks better?
All right, so this is what Bo Tucker gave me for my staff deck.
Oh, dear God.
The happy holidays and contacting Hyden.
Yep.
As long as there's not 2 of each in the deck, we're okay.
Well, no, it's...
He just starts the game with them.
Yeah, I started the game with him. It's basically...
Remember, his other ability.
I actively
Which you
tried
forgot.
not to. No, I didn't forget. I just we try to block out. There's a
Well,
difference.
no, he forgot to play it on me, the game that
Yeah,
we played.
yeah, I did. I forgot.
Question. No, respond to the question. What is your favorite deck aside from your champ deck, or is there anything out there
Yes,
that's piquing your interest?
I have 3 decks. I have a classic, or I should say, legacy build, and I have 2 other standard builds. I
And
do like Mega Man. Mega Man's a lot of fun. I demo with Mega Man a lot, and it sounds silly, but I really like his moves and whatnot. I want to be able to make a deck around him that's competitive, and I just haven't found a way to do it. Um, but probably my first real build that I enjoyed was Goro, a Goro throw deck. And so that's kind of where I started. And that's ultimately what helped me design my staff card, was based off of Goro. And that's why I have fire and earth ability shared, because I like some throws from earth and some throws from fire, and I like foundations from both as well. And so I would say Goro's probably my favorite, but my legacy build, I really like Mitsurugi. Um, he was my favorite fighter character, other than some other characters from Mortal Kombat. I was really big into the Mortal Kombat back when I was a kid, and I liked the mechanical smoke, and I like Mitsurugi. Those are my 2 favorites. And so I have
and
a build based on him, but he sucks. I can't win with Mitsurugi yet. He doesn't have enough defensive foundations.
now we're trying to start a trend here in Total Justice Gaming. Legacy shall now forever be known as Extendacy.
Extendacy? Okay.
Not quite extended, but it's not quite Legacy. It's Extendacy. Kind of honestly sounds like a drug you'd find in a mosh pit, but that's beside the point. All right, what other card games you played? Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned you're a WoW TCG player. I know from personal experience you're a WoW TCG player, as you taught me, re-taught me how to play WoW, beat my butt playing WoW. Aside from WoW, what other do you play? But I'm guessing it's just WoW.
It was just wow. I was never a card gamer until about 2011, so I've only been on the scene for about 3 years. I was a very competitive PC player. I played a lot of computer games on PC. I was a WoW guy. That's one of the things that got me into the TCG was I had kids, and I couldn't really play WoW online effectively anymore, at least at the level I wanted to, because I was leading raids, and I was a raid leader. I was main tank. I, of one of the most successful guilds on the server that I played on. And whenever you have kids, your priorities have to change. And I couldn't spend these hours upon hours playing that game, so I wanted something that gave me still the WoW experience, but didn't demand the time. So I picked up a card. I picked up the card game, and I started to learn it just to get that WoW feel, and I got hooked. And it took me about a year to get competitive, to have all the cards I needed, and then I started traveling to like Darkwing fairs and realm qualifiers and so forth. And I didn't realize that I was good. I knew I was already good at my local level. I was one of the best players here locally, but I didn't realize how good the Lubbock local group was, how good they were. Every realm qualifier we traveled to, we won all of them. And then at the Darkwing Fair, I actually faced off against 3 different champs from Darkwing Fair's Realm Champs and Nationals. And I didn't realize I was good until I started beating those guys. Kind of came on at the end in 2013. That was in March of 13, and the game died in August of 13. So I was preparing for the World Tournament, and I was traveling to these events to see what the metagame was developing into and what kind of sets were coming up. And I had a pretty good grasp of what I needed, and that kind of deck I was showing you guys before we got on was what I was going to play at Worlds, and it was not a meta deck. It was meant to be a meta killer. And it had some weaknesses. It was weak against solo decks, which weren't very powerful at the time then, and it wasn't necessarily weak against rush decks, but rush decks could beat it if they got off in time. But Wild TCG has been it, and I would say UFS is my second now. I'm able to bring a lot of the strategy from Wild TCG over to an extent, but one of the new strategies at UFS is making me utilize in Wild TCG alone, or just all my card games that I play now, is not overstacking your deck with too many things. Typically, I like the 4-stack in WoW TCG, a 4 of 1 kind of card. In WoW and UFS, I'm noticing that's not necessarily a good thing because people can anticipate your moves once you make 1 or 2 of them.
Yep.
You cycle through your deck so quickly in UFS because you're checking cards and they can see your discard pile. They can start to anticipate your moves, and so I'm trying to break that habit from WoW TCG into UFS.
I have a question.
Well, incidentally, you actually covered 2 questions in the form of how long have you been with the game, so we'll skip those.
I just want to know, as we're bringing up WoW TCG, have you played Hearthstone at all?
I hate it.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. Compared to WoW TCG, it's awful. In fact, it's kind of insulting that they're using the same artwork.
I'll agree that it's worse than the WoW TCG. We actually, even knowing that Hearthstone was coming out, we bought a bunch of cards for cheap just to play it every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I play it occasionally because I got some friends that still play it. But the fact that you can't play on your opponent's turn really bothers me. Because that takes out 50% of the strategy in the game. It's a gimmick play on Blizzard's part to put a subpar game online as a cash cow. It's all it is it's just meant to bring in cash. And I'm really nerdy when it comes to statistics, and I put together what after being with Jasco, I kind of have an idea of what our competitors make with particular games. It's not exact, but I have an idea. And when you look at the royalties that Blizzard was probably making off of his TCG, I bet they were probably making about $5 million in royalties. So that means Hearthstone has to be more profitable than $5 million in terms of revenue for them. Since you don't have the production costs, the artwork you can already pull from the TCG. You don't have to print it. The artworks, I already said the artwork and the print are already done. All you have to do is put it in the digital format on a template, and you're done. And so their overhead is very cheap for how they make this. And I think that's all they did. I think they just reskinned it in a digital format, and they're just poshing out. I think their design team is probably less than 10 people on this. A company the size of Jasco can probably do the same with the kind of system that they have. But the problem with the Hearthstone game is that it's not made by a TCG specialized company. Like, if Jasco was to make a game like this, it would be good. Like, it would have to be good to carry our name. Hearthstone didn't have to. They're just piggybacking off of the Blizzard name. And it's making sales. It's something you can do when you're waiting in a queue time for WoW on a dungeon, because games can go. What's funny is I hear the argument all the times from Hearthstone fans that, oh, you get these games in quicker. No, you don't. The game times are the same. You're still playing a 15 to 20 minute game. If you play a WoW TCG game, it's still going to be 10 to 15 minutes long. It's the same length of time. You just didn't have to travel to a game store to play in a tournament. That's really the only difference. But Blizzard is not a card design company, and so even the cards they make out that they're making are oftentimes broken. There's certain meta decks that develop, and then players never deviate from 1 or 2 decks the entire time. So you have a bunch of mirror matches that you play in. I just don't think that's very fun.
Types of CDs in that thing.
Okay, it's nice to hear the opinion from someone who used to play the WoW card game.
If the Hearthstone players, because here's the funny thing is Hearthstone and WoW TCG really aren't that different. The resources are different because in Hearthstone you get the gems, which I actually like that feature.
Yeah.
But if they realize what kind of interaction you could do on your opponent's turn, I think they would immediately be hooked over Hearthstone. If Hearthstone could find a way to make it where you could play on your opponent's turn, I think the game would probably see a 25% increase.
Yeah. But that would just be too much effort for coding on their end, and they'd rather just be making money.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't think they really care about it. I don't feel like they care. They're having a world tournament at at BlizzCon this year, and I'm just like, who cares? The game is casual. It's simple. It's like playing war. It's there's no really there's not much strategy to it. So I don't know. I'm very much I'm very displeased when it was announced. The WoW TCG was still out. Uh, so we were like excited. We're like, oh wow, they're gonna be able to cross promote both games. They're gonna make money hand over fist. And then there was
Nope, they're gonna kill your game.
that made no sense to me. I felt like that was a very bad business decision. But I shouldn't say it was a bad business decision. I actually know the real reason why they canceled it, but I can't really talk about it.
Gotcha.
All right, back to UFS, I think.
Yeah,
we've talked
just a little bit. I mean, we're kind of maybe known for that in this show, just a bit.
I apologize, guys.
Just until next year when Versus comes back out, then we're gonna have some issues on identity. All right, we already discussed that one. Okay, here's a good one. What was something that happened that you did not expect to get with this job of yours?
You know, there's there's a few. I didn't expect. When you work for a game company, you have this impression that you're going to be playing games occasionally, if not a lot of times, in terms of like play testing and so forth. And that is just not the truth. Like I said, I was in the financial world for 8 years, and when you're dealing with people's money, things can be stressful, and you could have a lot of work. This job is 3 times more work than what my previous one was.
Yikes.
It's astounding how much work we do on a daily basis. And oftentimes Jason's not here in the Lubbock office. He kind of bounces back and forth between Vegas and Lubbock. Well, when he's not here, we still have a lot of work. But when he walks through the door, it magnifies. Not just because he's the boss, but just because he has stuff that's on his mind that needs to get done, and now he can actually delegate it because he has certain people that can help him with it. He was here just this last week, and we had a tremendous amount of work. It's kind of hard to try to describe what we do. I mean, it ranges from printers, it can be the kind of paper, it can be the artist, it can be shipping. I mean, I didn't expect how difficult international shipping would be. I'm trying to decide what I can and can't talk about, so give me just a second.
Yeah.
Backer kit with Kickstarter has been a real pain in my butt. I'm getting tired of that program, but it's kind of a necessary evil. Those of you who may not be familiar with Mega Man board game Kickstarter, once the Kickstarter finishes, they basically give you a spreadsheet of all the backers and with all their addresses, phone numbers, contact information, and so forth. So you can keep in touch with them if you need to. And we have to put that in the system manually because it's a different program than Excel. And so we hired on a third party called BackerKit, which is directly associated with Kickstarter, and they import that entire spreadsheet and they make it simple for shipping purposes. They help us print off labels and get everything out in an orderly fashion. And for some reason, the Kickstarter program and the BackerKit program they don't talk to each other well, which I didn't expect. And I've had to spearhead that I came to the party late on that because I was not involved with the Kickstarter. So I had to kind of learn on the go on how Kickstarter worked with BackerKit. And so we got emails. I would probably get close to 20 to 40 emails a day with complaints about certain people's orders. And keep in mind, UFS 10s were involved in the Kickstarter as a promotional item to get more pledges, and it really helped spread UFS not just nationally but globally. And dealing with the international shipments, people not getting what they wanted, that has been a real pain in my side. In fact, Paul Taylor has been trying to help me with some international shipping on his end because sometimes I just don't have a lot of time to spearhead this. So he's been a real big resource for me. So the international shipping, Uh, Getting into stores has surprisingly been difficult. We've had this ongoing kind of, how do I explain this? We have a good community of UFS who buy product consistently, and I think that there is an actual decent sized player base for UFS out there, that they really enjoy the game, but they can't find stores to buy it in. And so Lily and I have really worked hard to try to get product everywhere to make it accessible. And I think one of the things, the stigma that we're trying to overcome is the stigma that Fantasy Flight did to us, or did to the game. Uh, they made a big mass sell-off right before they wanted to cancel the game, and then once everyone had it, stores and distributors, they just dropped the game. Okay, and that's kind of when Jasco picked it up, and so a lot of retail shops and distributors didn't want UFS after what had happened with Fantasy Flight. They saw the game as uh, inconsistent or bad product or dead game. And so trying to overcome that stigma has been very difficult. Even 4 years later, we still call stores that they just consider it a dead game, and they feel really burned by the USFS game as a whole. Even though it was under Fantasy Flight and us, not us, they're still, I guess, angry about what happened under Fantasy Flight. And so we have to make a lot of sales direct to stores instead of through distributors. And so I had a meeting with a magazine company who wanted to do some business with us with the board game, and I was looking at their top 10 list of card games, and I kind of went down the list, and I know what our numbers are, and I kind of know what our competitors' numbers are, and I'm just like, oh, well, why aren't we on your list here in the top 10? And they were just like, well, you're not in our top 10. And I was like, well, would you be willing to do some kind of an agreement? Or where are you getting your numbers? And they said, well, we're getting these numbers from basically the top 3 distributors in the nation. And I was like, well, we have we have a good distribution network. We got about 8 to 12 distributors, depending on the release schedules. But I said the distributors you're getting numbers from aren't ours. They're not ones that we're using. And then a lot of our stores were selling direct. I said, we've got 500 retail stores that are buying direct from us right now. And she kind of looked at me with these deer in the headlights kind of look, and I was like, we're right here. It's like, we're probably number 5 on this list. We have people buying this product, and she just thought I was a complete liar. And so kind of trying to overcome this stigma has been a real challenge for me, and I would say Lily as well, and it may take years to do it. So one of my frustrations is I feel like the player base is there, but I don't feel like the retail chain is there yet to support the player base. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us in these mass retails. I'm trying to get us in the Hastings and the other big bookstores and places that you would find these games so players can have access to it. And then once they have it, they can go to these retail shops looking for people to play, looking for tournament quality play, and they're asking for product. To basically make these stores realize that this is a big selling game, because it is. I mean, UFS is a successful game, and you can't see it on paper because all the numbers are based off distributor numbers and not retail store numbers. There are some other issues that I run into too, but I can't really think of them right now. It's almost on a daily kind of thing. I really expected to have more game time, and I just haven't. I mean, I hadn't even really had time to learn UFS. We're that busy.
We'll have to fix that.
I have downloaded Octagon, but I'm having difficulty understanding the program because it's not very streamlined.
Yeah, it's some of the things that are in there are nifty. I just started using it myself about a month ago. There are some issues I have with it, but it's definitely for when you need to play in a pinch. It's definitely a thing. I just have the luck of my friends coming over all the time to play test.
I'm just now getting that. It's been so helpful. Well, I mean, other than getting with the community through Octagon, Nathan and I have actually taken upon ourselves to start up a WoW guild. Nathan, tell them about the WoW guild.
Well, we don't really have a guild yet. We're trying to get one started. there have been some players that have been interested and they'll hop on every now and then, but there's nothing really consistent yet. But Joe and I, almost, I'd say every other night at least, we have some consistency leveling characters. I got this really good promotional deal through Blizzard that didn't cost me a whole lot of money to get back into it to get ready for the new expansion. And so Joe and I are playing. He's the tank. I'm a DPS class, and we need a healer. Really, we're just looking for guys to come and hang out with us and play. And typically, Joe and I will get in Ventrilo and we'll just kind of chat while we're going through dungeons and whatnot. And we talk a lot of UFS. So if we can actually get enough players, we want to start a guild called UFS. I didn't want to name it Jasco Games just because I know some people just don't like the name Jasco Games. They have a very negative opinion of us, even though we're trying to do our best to support you guys. So I just wanted to name it under something that would be unifying for everybody. So if we can get enough players, we're actually going to make a guild called UFS, and we're going to hang out and play Warlords of Draenor.
Well, hopefully Josh is watching and will join.
Or you could join, Matt.
I've already asked him.
That would involve me spending a lot less on UFS.
Which is not
Both
a good
time and money.
Not really.
UFS is the main one right now.
Talk about UFS while playing WoW. It's still UFS related.
It's one of the reasons why I'm doing it is I don't play a whole lot of games, and this is one that I can do on my my downtime at home. I really just want guys in the community to come and hang out, and us hang out together. So when I travel to different events and I actually know who I'm talking to, kind of thing. You know, when I was at Gen Con, I didn't know anybody at all, and I want to change that. So one of the ways that I can do that is if a ton of people play WoW, so come play with us, and we'll hang out, and you guys can ask me more personal questions about what we're doing at Jasco. If I can answer, I will. And you just want to hang out, get to know us. I'm just looking for to socialize with the UFS guys and get to know them better.
Unfortunately, I don't think either one of us played the thing all UFS players are playing, and that is either Destiny or League of Legends. I'm not a League of Legends person, and I don't want to play Halo on another game console. I've already played Halo. I've done my time.
Nah, we got to get you around the League.
Don't like League.
My issue with League is I don't have when I have time to play, that game can be extremely frustrating for a new player. It's almost like UFS. There's a pretty large learning curve for it because the whole fact, it's like Dota. You've got to level up your character on pace with your competitors, and plus you've got to earn gold, and you've got to buy armor or whatever items you need to keep pace. And if you don't keep pace, you just get raffle stomped.
Well, Heroes of the Storm.
Well, Heroes of the Storms, I'm actually looking forward to. I was hoping to get into the alpha, and I didn't get in. Maybe I'll get into
I'm in.
Shush. But Heroes of the Storm is probably going to be more on my level. If you guys play that, I'll be all about it.
I play Infinite Crisis, but that's just because I get to run around as Atrocitus, so, you know. Same concept, same thing, it's just I get a red lantern, and no, that's pretty much it. I get a red lantern.
So we'll look into more Heroes in the Storm when they go into an open beta.
Sounds good.
We can all team up on that, that'd be fantastic, but, you know, till then, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there was an 11th question, but that's just because I wanted to go one step further than 10 questions, so there really is an 11th question.
There is one that I want to ask, because I want my second round. What event are you going to next?
I'm actually going to be at the Southern Hobby Expo in Nashville on November 9th through the 11th. I'm actually going to arrive on the 8th with Tom Collier. It's just going to be Tom and I this time, so Jason, Lily, and Kagan and AJ won't be there because there's other things that they're working on right now. But Tom and I will be holding down the forts at the expo there. I'm trying to get Paul and Joe to help me schedule some kind of local event on the 10th at either a new store that we can promote UFS in,
which I'm trying to do that this weekend,
or a current store where they're already playing, to where I can meet kind of the local play group and get things energized. I really want to. Whenever I go to major events, or not major, whenever I go to expos or conventions or anything like this, I really want to start getting involved with the local community. Since I'm already there, Let's promote UFS. Let's get into some new stores, get product on the shelf, and get players interested. And I know that there's a pretty good player base in Nashville, and if there is either a better store or a current store that could use help, either bringing in new players or even knowing about what kind of products are out there, just any kind of promotional. I'll probably bring my staff card and probably play against some guys with my staff card and give them a chance to do a bounty match.
Now, Poe and I are going to try, but like I told you before, it's a Monday. God only knows what's going to happen on that.
Well, regardless if it's a Monday or not, I'm still going to do it, even if it's low turnout. I think stores appreciate whenever actual company owners come in and help promote the games that they're selling. I mean, that's Sabretooth's backyard. I mean, Sabretooth used to come in and do those kind of things. So that's kind of, I think it's a good thing. So whenever we travel, I think that's one thing that we have to start doing.
Yes.
I would have liked to done it at Gen Con, but Gen Con was
too much going on.
Yes.
Well, on top of that, there was nobody in Tennessee outside of me and the boy known as Simon for Tennessee at that point. Now we have a ton of players. Now we just need a ton of good players.
So you need to be at Nationals so I can take you on again.
I will probably be at Nationals. If I'm not,
and this time we're going to finish the match. You can't hold that over me.
I would like to play in Nationals, but I don't think Jason's going to let me.
Oh.
I think staff members can play in PTCs, but not World and National events. I had to double check that though.
I think we may have lost. Oh, nope, there he is.
Nope. Did you hear me on that?
You said you think Jason's going to let you play, but no one knows.
Yeah. No, I said I hope he would let me play. If he doesn't, you never know. I'm sure there's some kind of rule in place about it, because we do. I guess technically we get to see some of the cards before you guys do, but I don't know. I don't think I'm good enough yet to be on you guys' level. I don't even have a card collection. I guess that's something else I didn't expect when I came on. Like, the access to cards is extremely limited. Like, we sell everything. So my collection is probably under 300 cards.
Just go cut those sheets up behind you.
No, Jason likes to actually use that kind of stuff, and when we're done displaying them here, he likes to use those kind of as like prize support.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight definitely used, and Sabretooth used to give those out. Mm-hmm. I used to have one. I gave it to a friend as a graduation present. The original Darkstalkers.
We have a ton in the warehouse. When I say a ton, it's probably a stack. God, I can't even fit it on the screen.
Oh.
It's probably a foot tall of just paper stacked, and it's just these card sheets.
Matt, to answer your question earlier, set 3 for Red Horizon is called Blood Omen, not The East is Burning Red.
Okay. I'm a little disappointed, but that sounds...
You're disappointed. It's called Blood Omen. Now I'm going to be expecting Kane and Raziel in this set. Neither one of you got that joke, but the people that played Soul Reaver, you will get that joke.
I played Soul Reaver. I just don't remember.
I actually, one of my favorite fighting games ever, video fighting games, was actually Soul Blade. It was pre-Soul Calibur.
Yes.
I remember that.
It was I love playing as Mitsurugi and Li Long. Those are my two guys. And I was so sad that Li Long didn't get pulled over to Soul Calibur.
Supposedly he died and gave his nunchucks to Maxie.
Well, I don't see Li Long naming his son Maxie. He gave his chucks to he gave his son his chucks, but Maxie doesn't strike me as Li Long's son.
No, it doesn't.
I couldn't get on the Maxie train, so
what's wrong? Maxie's cool.
No, he's not.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with Kung Fu Elvis?
He's not even cool in UFS. There's no way you could be cool with Maxie.
I was so upset there was never a good Maxie made. Like, he was my favorite character to play in the game.
No.
Nope.
Li Long was so much better. He had blades on his chucks, and they were handmade. Maxie's looked like something out of a show. Like
It's like if Bruce Lee and Elvis did the fusion dance,
yes.
and then lost all their cool.
Even Jason makes fun of Maxi. Because I was
I'm
looking
gonna
at.
have to, I'm gonna have to defend him one day.
The
You know
only
what is
good
funny?
thing, look, the
I
only
was,
good thing Maxi gave us in UFS was Mark of the Beast. That's it.
it's really funny, Matt, and I'm going to kind of let you in on this because I want some
Mhm.
kind of rivalry going here. I watched you guys' last podcast with Alex Marco,
Mhm.
and you and Giggles were talking about the new Sasquatch deck. And before we even released Darkstalkers and anyone knew what the cards were, AJ was saying that how terrible Sasquatch was going to be. And he still thinks Sasquatch is not a good card or a good character. And so
So
I
I
want.
have,
Go ahead.
I have to take Giggles' deck and play it myself.
He already has in his head how he's going to beat it, and he says it's not going to be hard. So he actually saw the deck list on the podcast as well, and he's not scared at all.
Good thing we changed it.
So anyway, next time you see AJ, you'll have to beat him with Sasquatch.
All right, I'm just gonna rip it out of Giggles' hands and play him because he's gonna be in Michigan, right?
Yes, he is actually.
All right, I'm just gonna rip it out of
Him and
Giggles'
Kagan both
hands
are going to be there.
and just throw him down.
All right, we will move on to the next segment, and we are very happy to be talking about this because this is something that the Jazzco people have been working really hard on, and something that we desperately, desperately needed, and that is tournament structure for major tournaments. So first off, I'll just go down the list, and we will talk about these things. The number of Swiss rounds in tournaments. 1732 will get 6 rounds and cut top 8. 33 to 64 will get 7 rounds. Cut to top 8, and 65 to 128 will get 8 rounds and cut to top 16.
Those sound like perfectly sound numbers to me.
I like it and don't like it at the same time.
How
Well, you
so?
would be a UFS player if you didn't like it.
Yes, this is true. I don't like that we're adding rounds. And that's because that makes certain factors for player and tiebreakers very hard to calculate in the more rounds we add on. But that's just me, and I got sat and explained the math repeatedly by Paul, so that's just his influence on me there. Otherwise, I'm glad that we have a definitive of where and when we cut to top 8. It's just the adding rounds doesn't make sense to me. But that's just it.
Second one, time limit for Swiss rounds increasing to 1 hour, I feel was definitely needed.
Oh, God, yes.
And then the third one, slow playing and stalling, just all these rules on it. I'm not going to read all of them because there's a lot. But I just find it strange. It's like, this has been, slow playing has
We'll
been
just hit
coming
the
up
first
more
one.
and more.
Slow play is make decisions that you don't, that you can make easily. Stalling is just deliberately taking forever just to either make sure the game goes in your favor or you're stalling out to ensure that you win. That's the only real difference.
Mhm.
We got the punishments, slow play, and this is only per match for slow play. First offense is a warning, second offense is a game loss, third and final warning, third offense is a match loss. Stalling per tournament. Now, again, I will emphasize this. Per the tournament. Your first offense is a game loss. The second offense is a match loss. Final offense that will boot you entirely from the tournament.
Yeah.
Based on what we were seeing at Gen Con, these are all necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just finding it interesting. It's like I've been seeing more and more articles and rules updates for slow play and stalling across a lot of card games lately. Like there's been happening more with Magic. And it's just such a hard thing to do. Like I think, someone could write entire articles or do entire episodes just on slow play and stalling. because it's such a subjective matter. Like, I can say this now that Giggles left. Like, we rat on him so hard for slow playing. Because sometimes he takes forever. But it's like, sometimes he's not purposely slow playing. Like, he's never purposely done it. He would never cross his mind. So it's like really hard to call him on something like that because he is
Well,
actually doing things.
I've actually gotten in trouble for this in some of the competitive tournaments I've been in. But I'm I'm a competitive chess player as well. I carry a pretty good chess rating, and I compete as often as I can when I can in chess tournaments. And I approach my card games like I would a chess match, and I definitely calculate all the variables. And so because of that, I naturally slow play, and it irritates people all the time. But typically I win
Mhm.
because I do take my time to calculate all the risks and all the advantages. But for UFS, the skill level is so much higher than from other games that I've played. It's amazing how
Every one of those
I'll,
nights.
I'll compliment the group. I think that UFS has some of the smartest gamers I've ever
We'll wait
seen.
for it. We'll wait for it. I love doing this.
Uh-oh, something's happening to Joe.
It is hilarious. Click on their pictures and they are stuck. Oh, there we go. They're back.
You lost me?
No,
He
you
lost
just
both
got
of us.
frozen mid-sentence, so your face was stuck in a permanent position. I was going to click on it, and then you came back.
Well, what I was saying is I think the UFS players are some of the smartest and most strategic players I've ever seen in any game. Um, the creativity and flow that they have is incredible. Uh, so when it comes to slow play on their half, I think it's mainly just to keep the tournament moving. Um, I don't think many of them are intentionally doing it, but it just needs to happen because some of the games get so intense they have to actually process what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Yep. The next one, diversity. The new diversity rule is
Ooh,
so great.
diversity, diversity, diversity. I actually called for this so long ago, and I made a good point. And this is when we were with Fantasy Flight Game, and I told Steve, like, Steve, you know, in fighting games, I can play Ryu versus Ryu, but I can't play white redhead man Ryu versus white redhead man Ryu. I can play white headband Ryu against blue Ryu, and those are two totally different things. And now we actually get that. Now we have the example given: one Kyo versus two Kyo will not diversify each other. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Like, when I first started playing this game and I first heard about diversity, I thought that's how it worked. But it just like it didn't come up for so long because in the very beginning there wasn't many different versions of characters that were played anyways. Like the other ones were there's usually one good one and one bad one. So it wasn't for a while that I actually knew the diversity rule actually did matter. And I'm just glad that it's the way that I think it should have been from the beginning.
Well, I think diversity is really good. I think it promotes creative thinking and new deck building. Um, I think it forces players to play differently than their opponents. You know, when some of the other tournaments I've played in with different card games, it's very frustrating to have a mirror match in a top 16 match in a national event. It sucks. Um, and I like the idea that if you're going to run the same deck as somebody else in the early on rounds, you better be the best, and you know that which one of those finishes the best is going to be the best possible deck that could have, or the best showing it could have in the top 8 or top 16. I think it's incredibly good. I think it's healthy for tournament play. I think where people get upset is when they make a deck or they net deck, or let's say they net deck and then I'll change it more to their play style, maybe with a few different cards, and then all of a sudden they get diversified and then they get upset about it. Why don't you come up with your own idea, your own build? So that's me personally. That's not a Jasco opinion, but that's me
Mhm.
personally as a competitive player.
The one thing that I don't like, I don't think the diversity rule is going to show up for a little while because the only two characters that had different versions that I think were almost as playable, uh, K-Dash and Iori, they just had their better versions banned. So there's like Mai, I think is the one that has two versions where both of them are playable.
Uh, all three versions of Kyo are playable.
Uh, like three. Oh, right. I forgot about the Neomax one. I
Yeah,
never saw Alexa play his deck, so I still don't even. I've still never seen that deck at all.
all three are viable. I mean, my point is, even in fighting games, they have stories where there are clones. I mean,
Hmm.
Kyo literally has two clones of himself running around in the world of SNK.
Well, hang on a second.
Unfortunately,
Another thing too, you got to realize if you have a mirror match and you're playing a deck with somebody else, let's say it's top 16, you've earned your right to be in top 16 or top 8, and then you have a mirror match against a deck that's almost identical to yours. Basically, whoever goes first should win, and so that's where's the skill in that? There's not.
Hmm.
If they play their cards right, it's random at that point. So with diversity, you at least know some decks have been ranked higher than others, and it's not
Yeah.
random.
now, thankfully, this has actually been addressed. And in the event that two decks will meet that are the same character and same character type, like 2.Kyo versus 2.Kyo, should they meet in the tournament, the better one will actually go to top 16. And in the event they do not meet in tournament and have that decisive mirror match, they'll have a mirror match prior to top 16 that's untimed, and then they will determine then who is the better of the two.
And then also if they face each other in the final round and they're both top seed as the same character, like there was at Worlds with the two K-Dashes, the judge terminator can just decide right there to make that match untimed. That
Yes.
way you don't have to play your match twice.
Now, the only downside of that particular thing is you're stalling the top 16 to confirm who that last person is, or that top 8.
Mhm. Like it sort of makes it so there's an additional extra round because I could see for this there's actually there being multiple people being same breakers with diversity,
Yes.
so you get your own extra free like mini round.
Now, I don't think we're going to see that horrible of a meta again. I do not foresee another everybody running, like, what was it? Was it Fei Long, Junie Spiral Arrow, and uh, someone else with Feline Spike?
Mm-hmm. Chung Li
Where,
Feline
like,
Spike.
it was a meta where I just did not play UFS. It was Feline Spike. I kept with the game because I was friends with Paul and I always was
Mhm.
interested in UFS. I never went away from the game. I just didn't actively play at that point. It was the Feline Spike Aerospinta Junie Spiral Arrow meta.
Cool.
Where I think literally half the field was Feline Spike because they made the emergency errata for it to be Felicia only, and then we had a plethora of Felicias versus I think it was Fei Long, Junie Spiral Arrow off order was what the other half of the decks were.
Mhm.
I don't think we'll ever see that again, so I don't think that's going to go quite to that extreme. Of course, I'm probably wrong on that, but that's how I remember it.
Yeah, I was like, I remember these cards. I don't remember these characters.
Well, I remember how the thing went down because I told Steve, all right, Steve, this is what your meta is like right now in the terms of fighting games. I've inserted my quarter. I've picked my character. I am now kneeling on the ground with my hands tied behind my back. My opponent has now picked the deck that has Feline Spike. They just hit Typer mode on all their buttons. How am I winning?
You're bashing your head in and getting there.
Yep. Like, I literally got on my knees and put my hands behind my back. It's like, this is what your meta is like right now. This is how bad it is. We lost that one viewer. It was probably Steve Horvath.
Does he watch your show?
I don't know. I doubt it. I think may actively be trying to forget UFS.
I've actually never met him. I've just
He
heard
was in
stories.
line behind us both mornings at Starbucks.
Really?
Oh yeah,
You should have told me. I would have said hi.
I thought you'd already met him because I mean
Oh.
I was like, hey Steve, and he looked at me. I was like, oh hey.
Typically, like I'm with Tom whenever, and like Tom will see him in passing and say, "Hey, there's Steve," and like I don't see him quick enough to register his face, and so I never know when he's around. I know that Jason, I don't know if he still does this, but I know that typically Jason, whenever he gets like a new set made, he'll send Steve some cards from the set to kind of keep him in the loop on things, because apparently UFS was Steve's baby.
He was.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so I know he cares a lot about the game.
All right.
So whenever I talk about UFS and Fantasy Flight, I'm not really talking about him direct. I'm more
Now,
talking about the company itself.
as much as I just ragged on Steve, I've actually had the pleasure of knowing him for a long time. He's actually a really nice guy, great to talk to. It's just sometimes decisions were not made in the wisest of times. We'll just put it that way. Like that one, those two sets that only got a, what was it? What were you around for Flames of Fame and Warriors Dream, Matt?
I've been around since Penny Arcade.
Okay,
So
so you remember the emergency errata where we only had that set for how many? What was it? 1 or 2 months?
yeah. Try to think. What was the exact errata? There's a
No,
lot
it
of
was an
things.
emergency rotation.
Oh, they were. Oh God, that's the problem I have is I don't remember all the set names of everything.
There was the last Street Fighter set and the last KOF set got the emergency rotation,
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
but it
that
needed it.
was.
Remember, we had that broken forward hand size 40 health Hugo.
Ah, he's
If it was
beatable.
Legacy, we would have had Nathan would have had everything under the sun he ever needed. Oh no, you should have seen some of the Hugo cards. Play this foundation into your card pool. Draw a card. Okay, whenever you play another foundation, respond. Draw a card. It's like, no, your character
Yeah.
doesn't need that card.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm kind of
Let's.
surprised you haven't asked me some of the stuff that we talked about on Facebook today.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
Talk away.
I'm an awful person. I remember. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about some of the international shipping you were talking about earlier, like branching out to other countries.
Yeah. hmm That's something
Um,
I'm working on.
like what are you going about with doing? Like just talk more about that. Like what other countries like? Because I know King of Fighters, a lot of these games are from Japan. Are you going to be trying to get into Japan?
I had a conversation with Jason today on what I could and couldn't talk about, and that one's in the gray area. So let me talk about the others first, and I'll
Okay.
decide whether I want to mention the other. Um, we're already in Australia. They made their. I got them set up over the summer. We're working with Good Games over there. They're a distributor, but they also have 6 retail locations, and we want to get by the end of next year. I want to have an Australian national champion. I want to get that up and running. I think with Good Games, they're very organized. They're probably the most organized distributor slash retailer over there. In fact, they actually had a representative come to Gen Con this year and came by and spoke to me personally. And I've got Lily working with them now after getting them set up, and they've already made an order for UFS, and that probably has already shipped out as of this week. So they'll probably receive product in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And it was a pretty sizable order, so I mean they're going to have enough. Um, so I hope to have an Australian national championship sometime. I would hope by the end of next year to give guys a chance, but I'm sure some of you guys would love to travel to Sydney, Australia, or Melbourne to play in a Australian nationals.
I don't know. That seems like Garrett's job to fly halfway across the world and take down things.
Well, some other ones, obviously we already have the UK, but we've been
Yep.
working with a new distributor called Versala Enigma. They're a Scandinavian distributor. Uh, Doing some work with them. They're still not really ordering in the amount that I would hope for. It's not a big enough amount to support a good play group in Scandinavia. But I would like to start seeing UFS pick up over there. I think if we can ever get back into France, because really UFS hadn't been in France since Sabretooth. Um, so I want to reopen that market because I know that Ryan Miller, who's the original designer of UFS, has been over there and seen it. There are players who play vigorously UFS over there, and I think we could drive up that. I'd love to get some other distributors that I can't talk about just yet because I'm in contract. I'm in contract talks with their legal departments.
Hmm.
But there is a company that's interested in buying a portion of our print run to make UFS and the board game into French, German, Italian, and Spanish.
That was the next question I was going to be like, doing them in other languages. Like, are you guys prepared for that? And
Well, we have to get people to help us with the print run because we don't have a translator. So we have to
Yeah.
get them to translate it. And so if they're willing to buy a portion of the print run and then just pay a very, very reduced cost on having it made, that could be a real possibility. That's one of the things that I do behind the scenes that I don't really talk much about because it's a pretty stressful part of my job because I feel like it's kind of one of those 3rd and 10 situations. You've got to get the first down, and it's one of those things that shows real production on my half. There's actually another distributor that I can't talk about yet because the contract's not signed yet, but the board game and UFS could potentially be produced in Portuguese and distributed in Brazil.
I want to kill people with foreign language conch blasts. Make this happen.
We get in Japan, that's fantastic. That would mean my little sister's play group would be
Well,
going.
I'll say this. Capcom, currently, we cannot sell Capcom products in Japan. It's not an open territory for us yet. However, they have told us that if we use a particular distributor of their choosing, that they'll open the territory up for us. I can't really talk about who that distributor is, but they do have a good relationship with Capcom. And I don't know if UFS will do well in Japan. I think it has the potential of doing well in China. But that's another territory that we're not really having access to. Because even though we have licenses to do Capcom products, we are still restricted to territories that we can sell it in.
Yeah.
And so if we want to open up a territory, we can request, and they decide whether or not they'll open it for us. Because there may be a Japanese or Chinese company that already has the license to do what we're doing with Mega Man or Darkstalkers. So even if we did open those territories, or technically we could sell Red Horizon to them right now. But Red Horizon's, 4 years old now?
Yeah.
There's in King of Fighters we no longer carry the license for, so we can't sell that either. So we don't feel comfortable selling 4-year-old product to those countries. We want to be able to open those territories up, and so that's one of the things on my to-do list to get done is get into that area. So I would say Europe's a heavy focus. We're already in Australia. I would say South America, I think, is a huge market for UFS. They are crazy about fighting games over there on a video game level.
Yeah.
If we can just get a portion of those guys that love those video games to play UFS, I think it'll blow up. I already know the board game's going to be down there. But UFS, that's just for I spoke about it on the Jawfest. A lot of these guys are getting upset at us for focusing on other games than just UFS. There are very few game companies, if any at all, that make it beyond 5 years with just one game. So having multiple games helps us grow, but it also opens up territory. So like the board game for UFS, if you want to look at how the board game has affected UFS, UFS has gotten into Australia. It has gotten into portions of Europe. It's potentially going to help us get into Brazil. It will help us potentially get into Japan and China because the board game is going to be the spearhead. It's going to open that door for our other games to be sold there as well. Because typically distributors don't want to sell one of your product. They want to sell a lot of your product. They want to sell different variations of your product. And so having those extra games selling in those countries are going to open doors for UFS too. So it opens up potentially new licenses, and it's going to open up new territories as well. I'm really excited about Australia. I think the people that we have running it down there are going to be really good about it. We're going to be throwing a lot of support their way coming 2015. And I would love it if some of you guys traveled. Like if you want a PTC and use your voucher for an Australian trip, oh, that would be awesome. Getting some core guys down there, showing these guys how to play.
So what you're telling me is I have to win Michigan, and instead of giving it to my teammate, save it for Australia.
Why not?
But I kind of need the third member of my team for nationals.
Just pick up somebody in Australia. I'll give you a couple people I know.
Well, and kind of a logistical issue. One of the reasons why UFS isn't like in Europe, for example, isn't there right now. Like technically, we are in Europe currently in the UK. Patriot Games is a big promoter of UFS, and I can't remember the name of the store right now, but we have a Scottish retail store that buys a lot of our product as well. They actually outsell Magic. UFS outsells Magic in their store.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's the shipping logistics are a huge problem. So like for us currently with our shipping methods, we basically break even shipping to Europe. And it's really sad because if we can get a good size distributor to distribute a bulk of our product into Europe, it would not be that bad. But when we're shipping direct to retail locations, like what we're having to do now, we basically lose our entire profit margin when we sell it to them. So we basically sell them after our shipping costs, because the shipping over there is incredibly high. So you pay customs fees, you pay a VAT tax, and then the shipping, of course. You lose the entire profit margin from our end of the spectrum. And so there was one particular retail shop that was currently buying from Rochester. And they actually called us wanting to buy direct from us to try to reduce Rochester's cost. And we couldn't. We first of all, we weren't wanting to compete with Rochester, but it wouldn't have mattered. Our prices would have been the same as Rochester, and it wasn't feasible for us to even do it because it was going to be at cost. Because you take out the shipping, and it was just there was no profit to be made. And so I'm working with UPS right now on trying to come up with a new method for Jasco products specifically to get it over there in mass. And right now that has just not presented itself. The last meeting I had with them was on Tuesday, and they came up here and we actually ran some numbers, and they're supposed to be following up with me tomorrow with one of their executives, and they think they have a new plan for us to sell direct to Europe without a distributor if we need to. That will be somewhat cost effective to where we can really pump that market up.
Sounds good.
I talk a lot, sorry. I talk a lot of.
No, that is perfectly fine. It's getting out some information that's needed. I mean, I was one of the people that was like really about the board game and Dead Meat, and our conversation earlier today convinced me. So.
Yeah, I mean, and we haven't really talked much detail on that, but I mean, if I explain it in kind of bits in the office because we get the same questions typically over and over again, and they're always a lot of them are trolls, and it's almost like they don't have any business sense, and they want us to focus on their game to make their game as best as possible, and the fact is all that's delegated to the best people possible that can make it. And the rest of us are trying to get other things that will enhance games. But I mean, we can cross-promote. I mean, in every single board game box, there's going to be UFS demos. So people who have never heard of UFS, but they buy the board game off the shelf at a retail shop, is going to see UFS. So there's cross-promotion there. I mean, heck, there's so many ways you can market the board game to help promote UFS. And the board game alone, with how much business it's brought to UFS directly, has increased the community of UFS probably by about 300%. The numbers are there. The game is growing because of the other games we're making. Because people who just focus on miniatures games that are looking at Dead Meat are now seeing what other products we're making, and they're seeing UFS for the first time. So we're reaching all new markets.
All right. Anything else you got, Matt?
No, he's explaining what I want him to see. Like that's where we're at from the conversation. Long story short, people. I didn't like the idea of dead meat either. I'm gonna look into it now after this conversation. People just need to learn with, at the very least, you don't need to play it, but just let dead meat grow on its own.
Mhm.
And it will find new UFS players.
It will. And
Like,
UFS is the same thing for the games too. I mean, you're probably going to have some UFS players that are going to want to play a
yeah,
miniatures game or a board game, and
yeah. Like I think
going to have a product for it.
some
And
people are
because
treating it as like dead meat's here being thrown in our face. Now you have to play this because you play UFS.
no,
And
we're not
it's
doing that. We just talk about all of our
like,
products on the
yeah,
Joffice.
like some people I think are feeling like that a little bit. But it's just like they should, like, if they don't like a minis game with zombies, which honestly I just said that out loud for the first time. Why am I not looking into this? Like, just think about that for people. It's a miniatures
Well,
game with zombies.
I think it's cool. It's the same designer that did UFS. I mean, did you know that
Yes.
UFS was actually the concept for UFS was originally designed in 2001, 5 years before it released.
Wow.
Ryan Miller came up with the idea, and he actually talked about this on the most recent Joffice, I think. He came up with the idea, actually maybe the first one he was on, and maybe 2 episodes back, but he talked about how he wanted to have a card game that was a fighting game base. It wasn't like your generic Magic game, and because he has designed sets for Magic as well. He's a freelance independent game designer, and he came up with the whole concept of having to check cards in and playing foundations. That was his contribution, and that was the original foundation of UFS. And then I think his name is Dave Freeman, and then some other guy, I can't remember his name, took it from there, and then it became UFS. So it
Hmm.
was a collaborative effort between three different game designers at Sabretooth from 2001 to 2006.
Huh.
And one of those guys is helping us. He actually has been working on Dead Meat for 10 years. And when
Wow.
he pitched it to us, um, Jason was just like, not another zombie game. Jason was not interested in zombies at all. And he was about to just not do it. But it was probably more convincing from Tom because Tom's a big miniatures guy. And Ryan consistently they basically had a playtest session at Gamma in Las Vegas. And the gameplay was solid. It's just, I think our hardest challenge is not going to be making the gameplay good because the gameplay's already done and it's awesome. It's getting the sculpts to the quality that miniatures players want to have them at before it'll sell. And
Hmm.
I know that Tom is working really hard on that. So like one of the things that AJ has really done for us is AJ works basically UFS nonstop. That's all he does. And it's allowed Tom to do more negotiation times with getting approvals for UFS rather than having to work on a lot of the artwork. And it's giving him time to find people who can do sculpts for Dead Meat. And uh, having more help like this has allowed us to do a lot better delegation. It's not just Jason spearheading all of this at one time. If it was still just Jason, that's all we would have is UFS still because he wouldn't have time to do all these other things. So
Mhm.
um, the more I think the community understands how Jasco works, I think the better off or the happier all will be because there's this conception that UFS is not doing well and is unhealthy, and that's just not true. I think it's the healthiest it's ever been since it's been under Jasco. I can't speak for Sabretooth or Fantasy Flight because I wasn't around for them, but with what's coming and the amount of waves that we've made with companies who we potentially want to license from, licensing is becoming a lot more easier, and they definitely have us on their radar from everything that we're doing. We're catching a lot of attention, and it's good attention. And these are all things that UFS is going to benefit from. So I don't think it wasn't easy back when we first started, but it's becoming a lot easier because of the hard work we've put into it now. Yes, I shouldn't say we. Jason, his first 3 years has got us to this point, and now he's got a team to delegate to that is helping him push it further. I think everyone in Jasco is very happy with what everyone else is doing. There's no animosity between employees or anything like that. I mean, we do get hot at each other every now and then, but it's over small issues that we want to get done. Uh, and they're all very competitive. I mean, you've got AJ, who is a competitive UFS player. Kagan's trying to become a competitive UFS player. I'm a former competitive player in different games, and Jason used to be a competitive UFS player. People, I think, underestimate how good Jason actually is at UFS. I mean, the dude's pretty. I would put him in the top 20 in the nation. He's that good, in my opinion.
I wanted to play against him at Gen Con, but he was never in the same room for 2 minutes.
Yeah, he's Gen Con. You'll never catch him. Maybe at Nationals he could devote more time to people like you. The lower end of the spectrum. I'm playing.
I know. I haven't gone to enough events. I'm trying to make a name for myself. Second in teams hopefully got helped there. And also being 2-0 against Garrett Brett.
Yeah, I've heard his name quite a bit. There's certain names, like I've heard someone make comments that like once Garrett makes a deck, that deck gets banned.
Yeah.
So apparently he's pretty good.
Just a bit.
Just a little.
Just a bit.
The fact that he didn't know who I was probably was my advantage the first time I played against him. Because he just underestimated me, and I just completely blew him out, and he admitted to this. He's like, yeah, I didn't think you were going to do that.
Well, even though I can't talk about certain companies we're trying to get licensed with, I will say that we've got about 23 in the works, and there's 5 of those that I think are just awesome.
Yeah.
And
as long as they're awesome.
Oh, they're so awesome. Like
Angry Beavers, the set.
And I'm actually kind of hoping for one over the others because I actually had a direct hand in getting it started. We went to a licensing expo this summer, and typically licensing expo I think is about the same time as Origins. I think it was Origins. It's either Origins or PAX. I can't remember which, but most game companies go to Origins, but we decided to go to licensing expo to try to get the next big thing. And holy cow, we're probably going to go every single year now. That was extremely effective trip. Met with basically everybody important that we would ever hope to have in UFS. And we weren't just meeting with like the salespeople. We were meeting with like the head honchos. Some of them we weren't able to meet with in a timely manner because I didn't realize that you had to have a scheduled meeting with these people 3 to 6 months in advance at the licensing expo, which was really weird to me. I figured at an expo, people come and, like to Gen Con. You come in, you meet and learn about certain companies and what you can do with them and what you can do for them. And licensing expo was not like that. We're definitely going to be more prepared next year. We're going to have a very detailed agenda for our licensing expo for next year. But I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, UFS could have some pretty stout stuff.
So make those next 2 or 3 years come by faster.
Okay. We actually have a question from someone from the audience, Mr. James Holtz. He wants to know if there will be a recap sometime of the new rules and details to the Michigan PTC. James, we actually already covered the rules a little bit earlier in the show, so all you gotta do is rewatch the show and you'll get that. Michigan PTC we'll talk about in just a second. And Nathan, I'm not sure if you can answer this or this is a Tom question, but he's curious as to whether or not God Packs will make a return in UFS.
That's a Tom question.
That is a Tom question. I figured as much.
I only register things that are important to me, and that's not important for me to do my job.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know how to answer it. I'm sure it's been said by Tom before when I've been around. It just never registered.
I believe that was actually brought up in the office, but I'm not entirely sure.
It was. I think the last 2 episodes have been really informative, not just on Dead Meat, but we've had a lot of like UFS approvals, the board game approvals, and I mean, you can get a lot of information from the office if they'll just watch it. I know that, and that kind of leads me like I've told the guys I think two offices ago that I've been working on the state of the game, and I'm still working on the state of the game because I never have time to write it. Thomas Gordon, hype man, gave me an outline to follow, and he sent me some examples from like Fantasy Flight and Sabretooth of what they've done, and they're really good, and they're really informative for UFS, but it's getting the time to actually write it. That's a bit the only issue. So I hope to have that out within the next week, hopefully.
Just find some more things to delegate to people.
I would, but there's a problem. The people I would delegate this kind of thing to are too busy doing other things, and the people that we have left over, I don't think are capable of doing it. So I'm kind of stuck with it. There is one guy, there's a volunteer that just came on who's been actually with Jasco from the beginning, but he kind of works off and on. His name is also AJ. It's AJ Ortega. And he's been sick with the flu and strep at the same time this week. And so I was hoping to utilize him with some of that, but I haven't had him available. And I don't know if he'll be back soon.
Okay, so we are going to make some predictions here for the Michigan PTC that's actually coming up this weekend. Who do you think is going to take it?
I'm not sure.
Can't say you.
Can't say me?
Can't say you.
Well,
not saying that you won't win. I'm just saying you can't predict yourself.
Hang on. Yeah. Matt, why don't you let me go first so you can think?
Sure.
There's a new Jasco, I shouldn't say new. Kagan, you guys have never seen him play other than a staff card. But Kagan has a drive to compete, and he's been trained for about a week in Vegas. He actually, for his birthday, Jason bought him with his airline points, his ticket to Monroe. And so I actually played with Kagan in the WoW TCG, and I know that if Kagan had the cards that he needed, the expensive cards, that he would have been a force to be reckoned with. He actually does have some pretty decent UFS cards, and I expect Kagan to make a very big splash after training with AJ for a week. He already was good, and AJ probably just made him that much better. But if it's not Kagan surprising everybody with these off-the-wall deck builds, I think AJ could give you guys some trouble.
Ooh, no. We can't allow staff to win. It may not be me, but personally, Rochester, we prepped. We made ourselves a lot better for Worlds. We haven't stopped since then. I think it's gonna be one of the Rochester groups. One of us. It's gotta be not Michigan. We gotta invade their territory and take them out. But for decks that are gonna be there, I think there's gonna be a lot of Blazing Storm decks. Obviously, from my ranting about Sasquatch from last week. Hoytzil, I'm still not sold on Hoytzil. I've been playing the deck all week. There must be something I'm missing other than Hearts and Chaos Cockblast. Like, sometimes it gets there, sometimes it feels like the deck kind of does nothing. So unless there's something weird like Fire Hoytzil that they're talking about, which I actually thought of earlier today and sounds kind of fun.
Hey, just want to change the subject, Joe, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
And I know this won't help Matt in the Rochester group, but it might help your group or anyone else around your group, or maybe in Atlanta. But Hastings has been developed. They have a new buyer for card games, and he is a former card shop owner, and there's 130 store locations, and in 95 of them, he has installed gaming sections where they are playing card games and they're holding like Magic tournaments, Pokemon
in the store.
In the store at these locations.
That sounds really cool.
So I want to get a UFS tournament in locations that it's necessary. So if any of you guys are listening, if you'll message either Joe or me at nathan@jascogames.com, tell us if there's a Hastings in your area that has one of these new gaming sections, and I will try to get a tournament set up at that location for you on a weekly basis.
There
Because
is a
we need to
Hastings in
force.
Murfreesboro.
Okay. That may be a great place to get UFS. I mean, if the stores aren't really supporting a certain area, but there's a Hastings there that has a game section, we can utilize that just as we could as a brick and mortar.
You'll have to get with Paul on that one because Paul's going to be running the
Well, no,
Murfreesboro.
I mainly want the listeners to
Yeah.
kind of give us some feedback and
Yeah.
if they would be interested in doing that. Because I mean, with the coffee shop there, every Hastings has a coffee shop. You got cards on the shelf. They're going to be playing more games than just UFS. It just may be a really cool place to hang out, especially in places that don't have any game stores. So like guys who focus a lot on the Octagon because they don't have a local retail shop, if they have a Hastings, that's a new place potentially they could be playing tournaments on a weekly basis. That's brand new as of this summer. They just implemented this.
Sounds really interesting.
They were doing it because they're based out of Amarillo, Texas, which is only about an hour from us. They set it up in just 4 stores to run a test, and they were getting 1,000 players a week.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they vastly expanded it, and it's wildly successful. In fact, it's in some places it's shutting down the brick and mortar stores because they're playing in Hastings.
Like, especially since I looked at the map of where their stores were, and it definitely seems to me from like what I remember my experience with Magic over the years, they have a lot of places where there's not as many brick and mortar stores, and they're definitely like their smaller ones that can only afford to like hold Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So Hastings setting up stores like that in all these places where there may not be brick and mortar stores that can carry UFS easily. That seems like a good way to get it set up. Like here, like it sounds really cool, but especially along the East Coast, it has a lot of big stores for card games, so it wouldn't be as helpful here. But definitely out in like the Midwest and out there, it seems like a really good thing to set up.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, like UFS doesn't do well in Texas. Like I don't know, I don't know why. Other states just do really well with UFS, and for some reason, anywhere basically southeast of I-35, like that would be the Waco, Houston kind of area. It just doesn't. It hasn't picked up there for some reason. But like Austin and San Antonio are starting to pick up finally. Amarillo and Abilene have always been good, and of course Lubbock and then Dallas. But for some reason, the southeast part of the state, which is pretty large, is not very big. But anyway, I got off topic there. I'm sorry, Joe.
No, you're quite all right.
What were we talking about? We're talking about
Talk about Michigan and how I'm going to win. I mean, sorry, how someone from Rochester is going to win.
No. I said you just can't say yourself. There's a difference.
I don't know. I haven't gotten to do enough playtesting for the format in general, so because I've been busy doing other things this week, and it sounds like it's true for a lot of players. So I think it'll be really interesting because we have a new set, all those bannings, minus one of these the 2 play groups talking about a bunch about Sasquatch and Hoytzil. There's not really a defined meta, in my opinion. So, like, there's going to be a Birch there, obviously, because there's going to be an actual Birch.
Yeah, but sometimes the actual Birch being Spider Girl.
Shh, but she's not good anymore.
Give it time.
I think she lost too many tools at this point.
I think Lilith may help her out on the water build, but that's about it.
Eh. I don't know. We'll see. I'm actually kind of glad that I have no clue what's going to happen this weekend. I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
it is a good thing.
The only thing I think is Blazing Storm will make someone really salty by the end of the day. It's probably going to be me, but
in the long run, it'll end up with Whirly Ball and Steak and Shake somehow.
unfortunately, we may not be able to make it to Whirly Ball. Depends on when we're just, our hotel, we're not, Oh yeah, we're not going. Okay. I wanted to make sure with the group. Yeah, we're not going to, unfortunately. Steak and Shake, on the other hand, that's gonna have to happen one night. Yeah.
You know, one of the
There
things
we
I want
go.
to do, like the
Uh,
possibility of me going to New York
I know.
is quite high over the next 2 years in terms of either my own personal vacations or um, an actual event. We're looking at going to PAX East in April, which is in Boston. How far away is the Rochester guys from Boston?
You from Boston?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. Because I've never gone to that far away. Well, I've never. Well, not. I've gone that far. I haven't gone that direction. I'd have to look it up.
I need to
Um,
I think it'd be fun just to hang out with some of the New York guys. Or just I want to go experience each play group. You know, each big play group that
just
consistently
just
travels
just
in
come
and
to
around.
Rochester. Just come there.
Well, I'm just trying to coincide when
Yeah.
I'll be in that general vicinity.
Yeah. Let's
And
see.
keep in mind, I live in Texas, so I'm used to traveling like 9 to 10 hours anywhere I need to go.
hmm
Um, good grief! Anyway,
um, this is something I could do off air. It'll take a while. I'm like me trying to put in a Google Maps. Do either of you have
actually,
anything else to say about Michigan?
no, I just hope everybody has a good time, and I look forward to seeing the results and hopefully talking to the champ with you. Hopefully, it's you at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the actual reality is, when I tell the truth, is I'm completely unprepared for the event, but we'll see.
he's lying. He's playing you guys. He's totally prepared. He thinks he's going to win, but he just doesn't want to brag.
Oh, I know it.
Well, I've got nothing else to say for Michigan on that.
What
People
else we
there?
got, Joe?
Alrighty, so we will end it there as
Well,
we've
real
gone.
quick, before we end,
Hmm.
then there is something I want to say. One of the reasons why I wanted to really come on to this podcast, whenever you asked me to come on, I was really excited to get the players to get to know me. I really want the players to get used to like either emailing me, becoming a Skype contact, whatever you prefer to do. I mean, some guys do Facebook. Um, I want you guys to send me feedback on stuff, especially when it comes to tournament, because I may not have, I don't really have the authority of changing any rules or card bans or anything like that you guys are interested in, but I want to start making sure that our tournament scenes are awesome. I want, you know, cardboard stand-ups or even statues or something at events that says this is UFS. I want TVs on the wall. Like I want certain things to really hype up the tournament scene that's going to make coming to our tournament more exciting and more having a bigger presence. Gen Con was a little bit difficult because we didn't get put on a wall, even though we requested a wall space. So because we were in two different hall spaces, or I should say walkway areas, we weren't allowed to have cords running anywhere, and so we weren't able to do that kind of stuff. But if you have like a cool idea to make a tournament awesome in terms of appearance or even effectiveness, shoot me some comments. I mean,
I am going to send you a bad idea every week until we find one that works.
you know, we actually looked into getting a statue made, and oh my gosh, I didn't realize how expensive they were.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're talking 50 grand on the small end.
Maybe
Yep.
this is a sign that we're in the end.
Oh yeah, Joe's cutting out a bit.
But anyway, I just
Huh?
Oh,
you're just cutting in and out.
yeah.
It's a sign.
So anyway,
Yep.
anything that you think would be a cool idea, I'm all ears on that kind of stuff. So you can shoot me those kind of things. Anything that you think would be awesome for the game that is not game changing. So we're not talking rules or cards. I don't do that kind of stuff. But if you think there's something that Jasco could do to enhance your experience, shoot it by me. I'm really good at making things happen, especially at Jasco. I mean, I delegate a lot of stuff with Jason, and so if I feel like it's a good idea and it's worth spending money on, I'll push for it. So shoot me some feedback, guys. I'm your connection. If you want to feel more connected with Jasco and UFS in terms of what's being done, I'm a good contact for that.
Alrighty. So, like I said, like he just said, and it was an open invite, everybody bug Nathan. Doesn't matter what about, just know he's probably going to tell you it's a Tom question. Just go bug Nathan. All right.
Well, he
We will wrap it up there tonight. Mr. James Holtz has asked one more question. We'll cover that before we go. Tournaments are really great and all, but will we ever see the return of a UFS league? Honestly, James, that is going to depend on where you are. And as Nathan just said, if you contact him,
The Red Horizon event.
what you mean by league? If you mean your own personal hobby store, get in contact with either Lily or Nathan, and they will try to set up something with your store, hopefully, to get it going. If not, just stick to this channel, and we will be talking about all the PTC and major events coming up. If you're looking, meaning a more pro style league.
Well,
Other than that,
I want to add to that because I think he may be referring to something a little bit more in depth. Um, like you guys are used to, whenever you play in a tournament, you're used to having like a point record or something to show your status amongst the other guys around the nation. And that kind of system has not really been updated. We are working on a brand new system. We've been working on this for about a year now. It hit a snag right before Gen Con, and we basically had to reapproach because this kind of system that we're making for our organized play, not just on world and national events and PTCs, but actually even on the local level, we're restructuring all of organized play. And I would just ask that you guys be patient with us because it's costing us quite a bit of money to get this done the way we want. And if we can actually get it made the way we want it to be made, our competitors are going to copy us because it's that good. It's awesome. It's all under NDA, so I can't go into too many specifics about it. Just know that a better form of organized play is coming. It's going to be very interactive. You're going to love it. So just be patient with us. It may take us another year to get it done, considering what happened right before Gen Con with this particular project. Basically, the guy that we had working on it wasn't keeping up with deadlines, and so we're having to reapproach this potentially with a different guy to help us with this. So anyway, it's coming. We're working on it. If it doesn't happen, either we ran out of money for it or it just couldn't be done. But we feel pretty confident that we can get it on the level we need it to be on. So that may be more what he's looking for.
I want to talk more about that, but you said those three letters, NDA.
Yes. Yes. If I had you under NDA, I could talk, but I won't do it on this channel.
plus there's the ceremony, the sacrifice, and all the other things you got to do to be part of NDA. It's a long and agonizing process.
And we do enforce our NDAs. You don't want to break a JASCO NDA.
And by enforce, they mean they send a van in front of your house and break your legs first.
Oh, you don't have ninjas?
No, we don't have money for ninjas. We only have money for, like, low-level thugs without name badges.
All right. I have to get going myself, so...
We all have to get going. So, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
It's fine.
There's a lot more we could talk about. I think we've just really just scratched the
I think
surface
this is
of
the
what I-
longest one that we've had.
Of course, because I'm on here. I talk a lot.
We're only going to get 1 or 2 word answers from Tom.
What do you
Tom?
think about the new sets? They're
Oh, and
good.
by the way, Joe, Tom did not get your invitation. He said he didn't know he was on your schedule for the podcast.
Well,
He knows
does
now.
Okay.
Because
We got
hopefully he's
2
going to watch.
weeks.
He's about to move to Vegas too, so he might actually be have a presentable background.
I don't know, having Jasco games over your head is a considerable background. What do I got behind me? Power
No,
Rangers?
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Tom. Right now, Tom's working out of a kind of like a cabin. He's in transition to move to Vegas right now.
That's okay. I mean, I've had people with worse backgrounds.
You should come up with a really good line of questions for Tom, because Tom is he's a whole different area in Jasco than I am. He deals a lot with approvals. He has direct contact with Capcom and Like, he can probably answer some pretty detailed stuff that's not under NDA that I can't answer.
All right.
Okay.
Now we'll actually try to end. I swear to God.
All right. It was nice talking with you, Nathan.
Well, thanks
Yes,
for having
thank
me
you
on.
so much for taking the time out to do this. Matt, I wish you luck and good luck and safe travels.
Yep. Thank you.
Bring home the win if you can. That'd be fantastic.
I will try.
If
But-
not, have an epic co-host battle with Mark.
All right. Yeah, I got it. I'll take him out.
You should
I
head
got to prove that I earned this spot by beating him, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. All right, guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Next week we will hope to have the winner of the PTC. If not, Matt and I are just going to ramble on about decks. And by that I mean the winning decks, but still just rambling with decks.
If it's someone from Rochester, I could just drag them into my house. So
There is that. He can just drag them on screen. We are working on a much higher budget where we can just pull and yank. Not so much me, but you know. All right, so thank you so much. We will see you next week on another episode of Total Just Gaming. Again, thank you so much again, Nathan, for taking time out.
Thanks again for having me.
I'll probably talk to you in about 20 minutes anyways on Warcraft, but you know.
I don't know. We went pretty late.
Yeah, we probably won't tonight. Probably tomorrow. All right. We're out, everybody.